we have it going on. Rookie camps, prospect camps, whatever you want to call it to your terminology, they are underway in the National Hockey League, which means we are in full swing because junior started earlier and we've got the summer camps and the goalie schools and the goalie camps in our rearview mirror. We're ready to rock, launching into the new season, the 2024-25 hockey season. Darren Millard in Southern California and in BC, the lower mainland, is Kevin Woodley, and over on Vancouver Island is David Hutchison. Gentlemen, what's happening?
I'm not in Penticton at the rookie camp, so I'm jealous that you're in Los Angeles at your rookie camp, Darren.
It must be exciting.
It's cool. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really cool being around the rink for the initial time and not being a summer skills skate because there is that rush when you first get back, and it's neat to be back in the building. But for a tournament, and these rookie tournaments are the closest thing to a draft as you get, with all the hockey people being around the building. The big team coaches are there. They're not coaching their respective teams, but the big team coaches are the general managers are there. All the scouts and directors of player personnel are there, and player development. And it's like whole old home week walking through the rink and seeing everybody. And then you've got the players themselves that are on the ice and the top prospects that we've heard so much about. And can I just finish up with a little bit of personal glory? I didn't do it, and I sent Woody a note on this, but it was really neat. As I was leaving the building yesterday, the manufacturers were set up with their goalie gear. One on one side, one on the other. It was CCM on one side and Bauer on the other, and they had all their products set up to talk to the respective goaltenders here at the Rookie Face-Off in Los Angeles, which has 6 teams. And I just walked by, and all this new stuff was over here, and all the new Bauer stuff was over there. CCM on one side, Bauer on the other, and I'm just like, this is.
You should have stood in between them and did the Neo hands waving, come at me, and then fight, like the old video game, fight, come at me. Bauer, CCM, fight.
Darren, you said.
I was just going to say, I was trying not to be 12-year-old because I was with some people that aren't in the Goldie universe. And it was just neat looking at that, trying not to stare, but staring at CCM, and then just happening to walk by Bauer and looking at the glove. And they had some pads that were skinned and looking in a pretty cool way.
Now, is that, you said that it's about showing it to the prospects? Is that the only reason, or do you think they're there because they know the building's full of fans and there's probably some other goalies to?
It was down in the player section,
was it?
So it had to be
really?
just prospects, yeah. And
so you probably got to see some top secret stuff if you went and geeked out a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
if I would have been brave enough to go over and talk to them.
Yes,
can I drop your names?
You should definitely. Hey, there's been some good sets too. I was sent a message to you guys. He didn't play in the game, so we didn't get a closer look at it. But one of the Ducks goalies with a cool Bauer set with the new orange logo on there, the Duck logo. I thought that looked pretty cool. Nikita Tolopilo up here in Vancouver, 6'8" Nikita Tolopilo with a sweet CCM custom setup. And kind of curious, interesting to me with the departure of Ian Clark as a goalie coach. It still had white on the outer edges. I'll be curious to see whether we start to see some color. We're going to see some color among the Canucks goalies as those rules change. But yeah, some great looking custom graphics on these sets. So that's the other part of this year, right? Did you guys all check out Vejmelka's Utah setup? It's just an Optic 4 with that baby, the baby blues, baby. Ooh, beautiful Brian setup.
Such a great color. I think I'd be going solid baby blue if I could, but that was a sweet setup. Oh yeah, I'd love it. Absolutely. Maybe just a little accent on it of something, but I like the bold, solid colors.
Yeah, there's some really neat setups. That duck offering that you talked about with some duck tracks from the web feet at the top, just not like overwhelming, but just a neat ad where you go, what is that? Oh, that's
subtle touch,
really
subtle
cool.
accent. Yeah.
And I will be open and upfront. I'm not crazy about the big orange look on the dark sweaters, but the white sweaters with the bright orange, they seem to pop. They're pretty cool. I like them. A little too much orange on the other one, on the other set.
I'm okay.
You can never have enough orange, Darren. Come on. Old man yells. Hold on.
It's not so good on the defenseman. Not so good on the defenseman. Makes him look like a
Big
traffic
pylon
cone.
out there. Yeah. Well, perfect for me. Like, does this make Darren the old man yelling at clouds that he just said it's too orange? Am I the bright happy guy because I like them?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of orange.
It is a lot of orange.
That's all. I love the white set.
I played on a team one time where there was a defenseman who maybe wasn't so effective and maybe not so fit. And he came back to the bench screaming at the bench, change, change, change. And Buddy reached back and grabbed one of the cones and just threw it on the ice.
No.
Yes.
Well, he'd been sitting on that for a while.
Yes. Definitely.
Listen, we were talking about gear and new gear and trying new gear because the setup there down at the rookie face-off, Darren, perfect tease for our feature guest today, Joey Daccord, because one of my final questions to him is about the Instagram social media post we saw of him wearing a Bauer blocker with his everything else is true, Warrior stick, Bauer blocker. And so I asked him, and Joey got into it. And so that's our tease, folks. You're going to find out here today whether or not Joey's going to wear it in the season, and more importantly, what it's like at this level to get to try new gear, why some guys do it and some guys don't, and specifically what he loved and what he was looking for out of this one and who inspired it. It's a great little anecdote. And again, we'll say this once we hear the interview, like just Joey just being completely open and honest in the hopes that other goalies take something away from it. He's one of the best in that regard, and he did not disappoint in this feature interview today.
Joey talking about the Bauer blocker, and the Hockey Shop gear segment, we'll discuss the Bauer MV Pro glove. The MV Pro glove is on the docket today, brought to you by the Hockey Shop.
Well, and this is one of the beauties, because Cam had to explain this one to me because I didn't know. With all the different iterations of gear, different lines for different companies, and some companies having multiple lines, you get different breaks, different preferences that come with each line. So Cam and his crew, of course, being as goalie friendly as they are and understanding that maybe not every goalie is going to want the break that comes with that line, has brought in a couple of different options from Bauer so that you can mix and match the graphics on one with the break you want from another. And this is one of two gloves, the first of 2 straight weeks where we're just going to be talking about a Bauer glove. And it's one of those things that separates the Hockey Shop from other places. They're not just ordering what's available in the catalog. They're making sure they can get options that work for goalies, options that they know and anticipate in advance goalies will be working with. It's the benefit of buying your equipment from a place that is run by goalies, at least the goalie department, and employs goalies, not just some random high school kid making minimum wage that doesn't have a clue what it's like to be a goalie. Everybody in the goalie department at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports plays the position, is passionate about the position, and will help you find equipment that fits the way you play the position and think about the position. So for all the different reasons, all the new gear, all the sale gear, all the things that they have in their 30,000 square foot facility at the new location, the real separator is the people they employ. And it goes beyond Cam. It's his entire crew. So make sure you check them out if you have any questions about gear at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports Langley, or thehockeyshop.com.
Get back to the prospect tournaments and a couple of notes that have surfaced over the past few days in just a little bit. But let's slide over for our gear segment, discussing the Bauer MV Pro glove. All the details coming out about this with Cam and Woody over at the Hockey Shop.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, where I'm going Bizarro World Dan Blackburn.
This is different than that.
2 mitts. I don't understand how. Bauer MV Pro, a new second price point option for goaltenders, available on the rack here. I'm going to let Cam explain exactly what's new, what's different, but it sure is a nice feeling glove. Cam, the MV Pro.
Let's hold our both gloves out for a second.
X5 Pro.
X5 Pro.
MV Pro.
Okay, why that's a big deal and what's different? Obviously, X5 Pro follows in that same footsteps of the Hyperlite 2, as being that stock glove off the wall for the X5 Pro series.
Second price point.
Second price point. Now, we have a secondary option, which carries over from the Supreme, so which would have been the MV Pro of 2 years ago. This is giving us that 600 style glove and the mid price point that now matches that X5 Pro gear.
600 style glove. When I hear that, I tend to think when I close it, the tip of my index finger goes to the tip of my thumb, and that's certainly happening here. And yet the break angle, well, not the angle so much where the pocket is a little more sort of upright as opposed to out front. So you can sort of see that closure. Sure is a nice closure. Again, second price point glove.
Easy close off the wall. I think that's a big thing. And like the M5 Pro, yes.
I can do it with my other hand.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm ambidextrous.
And that's an intermediate size too. So we got senior, intermediate, and full right in both of those categories as well. Available off the wall. Same colorways that you're going to find in the X5 Pro, so you can match it up with your overall set. Again, we're trying to bring that, like what would be that shadow glove down into that mid-range price point model. So closest comparable. Again, nice, easy fit and closure off the wall. We still get those grips in the fingertips.
We'll like the grips in the fingertips.
It's a nice pro feature brought on down to that mid-level price point. Backhand strapping and all that is going to be the same as what you would find.
I can't see it.
Check that out because the flap's in the way. There we go. So, again, if you're looking for more of that 600 break style glove or need a secondary glove, anything like that, this gives you a nice alternate option in the MV Pro.
Usually about half the price of a Pro glove. You get a lot of, we've talked about the Pro features. What you're getting less of, maybe a little less padding, a little less materials.
Okay, different materials, so you don't have like that catch light or anything like that you've seen in what would be Bauer's Pro gloves for sure. Yes, and you're not getting their DTC foam inside the palm of the gloves. So yes, you do have a thinner palm here. But again, folks, we got to save the price point somewhere. So those are some of the quick differences you're going to find.
If you've got any questions about, actually, especially about whether this works for you and the level you play at, make sure you give Cam and his crew a call here at the Hockey Shop Source for Sports in Langley. Cam?
You don't know the number by now?
I don't.
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790. Give us a call. Give any of me and my fellow team members a call. We'll be able to help you out and help you decide what glove is going to be right for you. Also check them out at thehockeyshop.com.
Long ago are the days where you just walk in and you buy a glove. You got to do almost like buying a cart research.
We had two choices back in our day. Had the Cooper glove, and did it have the mesh in the basket, or was it solid leather?
Yes, I always wanted the mesh.
What did you have?
The
Me
mesh.
too.
Yeah,
still have it. It's up here somewhere.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
It just seemed like a bigger pocket, and it would hurt my hand less than the other one.
I just thought it looked cooler.
Yeah, you're right. And then you had maybe a couple of different manufacturers, but that there was still only one glove. Now you have to know what you're talking about, or better yet, head over to see Cam and Company, because it can be overwhelming.
Even Woody doesn't remember it all.
Yeah, I struggle with it. It's gotten so crazy, but that's why you lean on the experts at a place like the Hockey Shop. Like you go in there, like you can describe, like, hey, like I like the fingers to close so my index finger touches my thumb, or my index finger comes to the base of my thumb. Like, which glove is that break? And Cam's going to know, and he's going to be able to tell you what models have it. And here's another case where there's, oh, well, I like it to close this way, but the stock glove with that line closes that way. Here's an option where you can have the best of both worlds. And that's kind of what it's all about. I mean, it's funny, Darren, you mentioned walking in and having two choices. We walk into that store and look at the glove wall, and I actually could see, like, if you didn't have somebody to ask, it could be a little overwhelming. There is just an endless supply of gloves, and they all have subtle variances and differences.
You can go in and pick a glove that you like, but is that the right glove for you? Does it have the specifications that fit your game in all capacities? No,
is there something,
not a chance.
Something you're just not noticing that maybe is on the shelf that you haven't considered? It's not all in the internet forums. Yeah, go in there and talk and try.
Do you go in and remember that you're Woody and you couldn't catch a cold anyway, so you might as well have two blockers on and start looking at the left-handed blockers?
I'd like to try that one day. I also want to try using right-handed catching gloves one day.
Totally.
Just to give it a shot.
You should. Is there anybody in your system that has one?
Oh yeah, Isaiah Seville.
There you go. Well, there you go. See if we can borrow it for a shot.
Do you guys have a preference on? I'm not going to go with the break number, but is it fingers to thumb or is it fingers to palm on the closing? Because they do feel very different. One is like a baseball glove. One's the fingers to the thumb.
I like sort of like feeling like that pocket's above my, like I like sort of pulling it into the palm a little bit more than
I do too.
The baseball style, that first baseman's mitt like that is just, it doesn't.
That's how we learned how to catch.
Yeah, it's not what I'm used to.
When we were younger.
It took me a while to figure that out, that's the break that I should have.
There'd be an interesting poll to do.
Do it.
What if we ask people, like how many people, I would like to correlate the glove break you prefer as a goalie versus did you or did you not play baseball as a youngster growing up?
But that's what I'm saying. I played baseball and I don't like the 600 break, which is the one that equates to the first baseman's mitt.
Okay, but there's 8 other positions on the field.
That's what I mean. Like that's the one we think of as being the baseball catching glove. And as a guy who played middle infield, I had a tiny little, like the mitt was barely bigger than my fingers, and the pocket was pocket's kind of where it would be on a 590.
There you go.
Part of the reason why the first baseman mitt or glove felt so weird because it had a different break. I never thought of it that way, but it has a totally different break than everywhere else. Never mind that it's just a big salmon.
Oven mitt. No, an oven mitt's for sliding now.
Yeah.
You know what I found? Those little middle infielder mitts, you know what they weren't good for? Much like all roads lead to beer league and hockey, the little middle infielder mitts were not great when you eventually transitioned to rec league softball in university and the ball was bigger than the entire glove. Yeah. Didn't quite, may have actually shattered the tip of a finger catching a fly ball in one of those because there was just not enough glove.
Okay, how many people can relate to Woody being the cool guy out there playing softball? There's always that one cool guy at the start of every season in your softball who's holding on to his high-end ball playing days, and he's trying to play with a glove that's way too small.
But I was not Jim Rome softball guy. I was not like, I didn't have eye black. I didn't have the eye black and the like, you know, like the reflective shades and like the full out.
That's a good reference.
I did hang on. I did hang on to the small mitt a little too long. I just remember the first time going back, I'm like, oh my God, the softball doesn't fit in this thing anymore.
I'll get back to the prospect tournament. One avenue that I wanted to go down with so many young goaltenders, and they're so big now that you go through the rosters, and they're the second, fourth largest people on each team. If not on one team that I saw yesterday, they were 1 and 2 for height, and that includes like the New York Islanders, but not because of just height, but because of age. What are the New York Islanders doing at their prospect camp that has grabbed our attention so much?
Well, I don't know what they're actually doing, but having a 35-year-old at your prospect camp certainly going to grab attention. Keith Kincaid on a PTO, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he just needs reps, and maybe they were short of body. And if he needs reps and they were short of body, as much as we would like to say, go find a prospect that can fill that hole, I guess I can kind of understand it. Maybe just needs to be out there a little bit before it'll help him going into main camp. Maybe that's the thought. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here because the big part of me is like, you can't find a prospect that could benefit from that spot, but maybe they just don't have one in their system that's available. Maybe all their prospects are in college for all I know, and they're not available for these tournaments. I don't have the answer, but the eyebrows certainly raised, and a lot of people pointed out 35-year-old Keith Kincaid at quote unquote rookie prospect camp.
LA Kings had a 26-year-old defenseman, but he had just graduated out of one of the military branches. So we understand that. And there's that aspect and in college and the different elements that go along with that. But Keith Kincaid, that one was unique. I actually thought there was some kind of story behind it in the sense that he'd just been pulled in, but he's actually trying to play this year for the Islanders, and he's going down this road.
I guess the question would be, was it his request or the team's request? Would be interesting to know. I've often thought, someone in that position probably wants the reps. And how many of I know you could find somebody to fill that spot, but what percentage of free agent invites to rookie camp ever end up on a contract? So why take up that spot with somebody else, somebody you're unlikely to keep, as opposed to giving it to a guy who maybe wants some reps? So I think it's maybe not so bad. But
it's like I guess it depends. I haven't looked at the rosters on rookie camps, like development camp. The reality of NHL development camps is quite often there are invited goalies there that, that, for lack of a better term, they're there to be a target because they need X number of goalies. There's no intention of signing. There's no, and hey, it's good for them. They get reps against higher skilled players, but the reality is they're just there. They might as well put a giant target on their chest. And so if that's the alternative, then yeah, like I said, why not let Keith get some reps so that when he heads into main camp next week with the New York Islanders, he's got his feet under him. For all, like, who knows? Maybe it's an injury. Maybe he wasn't able to get on the ice as much as he wanted to. He's headed into a PTO. It's a big year for him. If it indeed was his request or something he wanted, then we could still make jokes about it, but good for him.
Is there any risk?
We still will make jokes about it.
Is there any risk
of getting hurt?
No, of playing, not going your way, well. And all of a sudden, this is not going to go well.
I don't think an athlete can think that way.
Well, I can.
If you're going in, yeah, I know. But if you're an elite athlete going into something saying, I might not do well, then
no. But can we ask if there's a risk?
Of course, we can ask if there's a risk.
So is there a legitimate risk, or is he just
let's
reps?
Be honest. Like, you're talking about a lot of these tournaments are kids that don't play together, don't normally play together. Mm-hmm. Systems are a little out of whack. It becomes almost like the lower you go down the minor leagues, it becomes a game of mistakes, right? And so as a veteran goaltender, I mean, Keith is a guy who reads the game very well and relies on those a little bit. He could read something and something else happens just because somebody makes a mistake or several people make a mistake. So from a read and react standpoint, I don't know how realistic a prospect tournament as a goalie is compared to an NHL camp. So yeah, there's a risk you might not look as good as outsiders would expect because of your age and experience. But to Hutch's point, it's probably not how you can think about it.
Well, if it doesn't go right, there's always men's league, beer league, and sometimes guys will play a skater position in men's league. Other guys stick with the goal, stick with the
never
crease.
Know if they need a goalie.
Whether they're sometimes they're even Hall of Famers stick with the position in men's league.
Can't believe it. Legend status. Like, it had already been cemented for Roberto Luongo, but this just puts it over the top.
Explain how that came about.
Well, actually, so a lot of the sort of social media references to it said that he answered a Facebook ad, but it was a little deeper than that. He knows the guy that runs the rink. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN broke the whole thing down, sort of how there was a relationship with the guy who runs the rink, who runs the team, and a history there. And they needed a goalie for the semifinal game. And Roberto, who was trying to get comfortable in the gear and get a couple reps in because of his day with the Stanley Cup up in Montreal was going to include some actual getting on the ice and playing hockey, decided to go out and play in the semifinal game. And so there's make sure you go read the ESPN version because it's hilarious. The other team has NHL players on it, including one who played against Roberto Luongo in the National Hockey League and didn't score on him, but did in this game. But yeah, nothing like, oh man, you know what? It's the Marty Brodeur Hyundai ad come to life, right? Where like the team's sitting in the locker room, like, oh, rent a goalie, watching the app as the rent a goalie app shows the goalie tracking towards the rink, and then the shots of the Hyundai cutting through the snow. And then it's Marty Brodeur running down the tunnel in full gear as everyone's like, referees are waiting to drop the puck. Except this was real, and it was Roberto Luongo walking through the door to literally save their season. It was a semifinal playoff game, win or go home, and he got them to the final. It's amazing.
I love the NHL tie-in too, because in Wyshynski's story, they mentioned that the guy who organizes Lou's team wasn't happy that there was an NHL player on the other team, and there'd actually been a breakup of guys over this topic. And he sort of said, Lou likes his poker. I'll see your NHL player and I'll raise you one Hall of Famer.
And hey, good on the other team for not throwing a fit. Because let me tell you, I have seen teams throw fits when you throw a replacement player, especially goalies in the playoffs. As somebody who's been broken down many a time come playoff time and needs to find a spare for the postseason, we have seen protests launched because they figured they were too good. I don't know what that says about what they expected my performance to be, but so good on both sides. Great fun story. And just imagine being that beer league team and Roberto Luongo comes around the corner wearing his custom CCM Axis pads with the custom graphics that were made for him to commemorate going into the Hall of Fame. Like Panthers on one side, Canucks on the other, all his career accolades. And yeah, and so second part, have you guys seen any of the video from the game itself?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so the Live Barn deleted it, but Chris Matola, who is one of our greatest assets as a listener and just friend of the program and friend of InGoal, sent us a link. I didn't get to it fast enough for the link to be deleted, but he described it to me, and it sounds like it is just the ultimate beer league, like Lou experienced beer league and what it's really like the save, the failed clear, the bodies everywhere, no idea where the puck is, ends up going in through multiple layers of bodies, nobody's doing their job. After multiple saves, it ends up in the net, and the giant Roberto Luongo sigh. Like, just welcome to beer league, Roberto Luongo. Everything about this made me smile.
I have to find a way to watch that.
Well, they deleted the link, but certainly people screen capped it. So make sure if you're one of the ones who screen capped it, info@ingoalmag.com. We'd like to have a look.
Please. No.
We'll do it. We'll ask Lou if he wants to do a pro read.
Is it more? Oh, that would be good. That is content.
That would be awesome. That would be excellent.
Part of me thinks it's more acceptable if you bring out a Roberto Luongo, especially in this Hall of Fame year, than if you bring out a former National Hockey Leaguer who just is going to snipe 8 goals. Like that would get old really fast. But if I'm the team playing against Roberto Luongo, I still think it's cool. And
you get to try to score in a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. It's very different than the sniper that's going to light up your team and you got no chance.
I think it comes down to the personality. I mean, if Connor McDavid rolled out for the opposing team and got 15 goals on me, I would just think it's really cool I got to face him. But if it was a guy who's a quote unquote no-name third line player with a bit of an NHL career who came out and sniped about 8 guys, you're sort of like, yeah, you just pulled him out because you wanted to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just same thing. If it was a goalie who was a little bit unknown and shut everybody down, I think it would probably piss them off, but it's Lou. It's awesome.
You know what the latter example Hutch just cited is? Every fire department in Canada.
Yes.
They all hire the ex-NHLers and to make sure that their fire department team is better.
And they're all good.
Yeah, they're all really, really good. I play against a few of them, so no disrespect to anyone. They light me up on a regular basis, but it's like a hiring policy thing. Let's get ex-NHLers so that our department team can compete more. They also happen to be in great shape.
I wonder what you as a parent would tell a young Roberto Luongo going through his men's league experience. How do you
keep it under 10? Go have fun.
Defense is optional.
Oh, Stop It Goaltending U.
You better try scoring too.
Yep. Stop It Goaltending U, the app parent segment. Hutch has a good one this week as we pay credit to the Stop It Goaltending U company and people doing some great things over there with the app.
Well, we always talk about all the different things you can access on Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and we're sort of always highlighting the new stuff, but you can go into the archives and watch all of these videos anytime. It's a rabbit hole of how to get better as a goaltender, and it's seemingly limitless. The new stuff this week, again, the beauty of Stop It Goaltending U, the app, you can digest it in quick hits or you can go into the deep dives. The quick hits this week are on non-negotiables. There's a great video on controlling short side pucks, how to use your stick or your pads to make sure that you control the rebounds better. That's sort of one of their quick videos, so intermediate length, but some great tips on stick position on the short side pad and how to better control those shots. so you don't create more dangerous second opportunities with what is a fairly routine save. And then lastly, this week, the new full-length 20-minute video is a goalie playbook featuring Buffalo Sabres Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who had a breakout season last year. They spent 20 minutes going through video looking at sort of some of his unique aspects to the way he plays the position, some things that you might want to incorporate into your game, some things that are very specific to him and his frame. They break it down entirely in their latest goalie playbook. And of course, they've got those on most goalies in the NHL available for you at Stop It Goaltending U, the app. And as we often say, because we are self-promoters, the best part of Stop It Goaltending U, the app, isn't all the great content they bring you. It's the fact it also comes with great content from InGoal magazine. Every subscription to Stop It Goaltending U, the app, includes a free subscription to InGoalMag.com, where we try to do the same. Bring you all the content on the ice with NHLers, video breakdowns every week featuring NHLers reviewing their own video in our pro reads, drills on the ice with these guys, all kinds of insights, mental game, everything. Both best of both worlds when you get Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and with it, your free InGoal magazine subscription.
Overflows with information. I'm not sure you could take it all in between Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and InGoal. Spent a lot of time.
You can do some serious binge watching.
It would have to be like I had my Neo reference earlier. We'd have to plug into the Matrix and just let it all download.
It's amazing the amount of guidance that is out there right now in the world of goaltending with those two platforms. Hutch, what do you have for us this week?
I have a question that I have seen come up a lot, and I saw it again this week, and I thought it would be fun to tackle. And that was, someone wrote something along the lines of, my kid says they love the game, but there's a lot of times I'm watching and they just don't look like they're trying very hard. What can I do? First thing I want to start with, as I have many times, is you know your kid better than I do, so take my advice for what you will. But there's a few thoughts here based on my experience as a coach, as a teacher, and as a goalie parent. So I would like to say that we have all been there, guys. I would put my son today, I'd put his motivation and work ethic up against anybody at any level. But there were definitely days at practice growing up when he was younger that he wasn't pushing himself as hard as maybe I would have hoped to see. And growing up, there is no question he played against goalies where it really seemed to us that the parents liked the game more than the goalies on the ice liked the game. They maybe even looked disinterested in games, and we wondered what's going on there. So if you're in that position, whether it's over a long haul or just once or twice, what can you do? You have doubtless heard before that motivation has to come from within. We can't teach kids to work as hard as Connor Bedard, Sidney Crosby, or whoever. And I do agree with that, but only to a point. I think there's some things that we can do to help. I have never believed that you can just sort of nudge, push, force, cajole, whatever word you want, a child into loving the game. And having that whatever it takes mentality, it's not something that you can really teach them. But it might not even be healthy for them. Think about that. Pushing too hard, getting angry, that's not so good for your kids, and it's not so good for your relationship with them. You're probably just going to make them hate the game, maybe even you. So I think we need to be careful here. And I think if we do try and push them, especially, going that anger route, getting upset at your kids because they're not working as hard as you'd like, you're going to find they're going to push back. And you don't want to raise a goalie who's only out there because they're fearing you or a coach or whoever. When my son was younger and there were days that he wasn't interested in pushing as hard on the ice, and if there was a time that it was frustrating me, I really had to just remind myself, he's a kid. He's here to have fun. And we want our kids to learn the lessons of hard work, sure, but it has to come from them and for the right reasons. So I was a goalie coach in that situation for quite a while, for many years. And for me, I always put my personal relationship with my son first in situations like this. And I actually think as a parent watching from the stands, you probably should as well. So I would just let him be. If he didn't want to push that day for some reason, if he didn't want to learn something new, that was okay. Because look, one U11 or U13 practice is not going to make or break his hockey experience. I think the central question that you need to ask them, though, is are you happy? Are you enjoying playing? And if they are, then just let it go. They can learn to push or not on their schedule. but why do some kids get that fire burning inside them to work hard? And is there anything I can do as a parent to stoke that fire? Well, first off, let's just acknowledge that you can raise two children exactly the same, and you will find that they do develop different personalities. So there's no simple answer to that. And the question does come, what do they want? My son has been lucky to have lots of interesting opportunities as a goalie and training and games and so on. But I've always simply presented opportunities and I let him choose them. He didn't always say yes, and that was okay. I didn't always present every opportunity, by the way, either. Sometimes time and money get in the way, but I was always upfront with him. So he had, some ownership over the situation and understood what was going on. Now, things didn't always go the way he wanted. He would have a tough game. Maybe he didn't get selected for a team, had some tough seasons. We start with a hug, give him a chance to be a little bit upset, but then I would ask at some point, what do you want to do about it? I'd let him know that I'm there to support, and whatever the answer is, if he's happy where he is, or even wants to take a step back or not play, that's okay too. But if he wanted to do a little bit more work, if he recognized the people around them were working a little harder, then I'm there to support as well. Look, I wasn't as direct as to say, if you want to be a better goaltender, you're going to have to work harder, because that sets up a tough dynamic with your child. It's more of a guided conversation. What do you think you need to do to take another step forward? Part of those discussions have always been having an open dialogue too, because we can't make assumptions that it's just that our kid is lazy or something. Maybe there's another reason why they didn't look happy out on the ice, and you should have a conversation and ask them why. Maybe they had a tough day at school that you weren't aware of. Maybe they didn't eat enough, or they didn't eat at the right time before practice. Maybe they got hurt by a shot early on and never really settled back in. There could be 1,000 reasons beyond what you're seeing as maybe just being a bit lazy. I've got a great book on the shelf here, guys, called The Myth of Laziness. And it is more from a teacher's perspective, and it is more about there being reasons that you might think that a child's lazy, but there's a lot more going on in the background. I think as a parent, we need to dig gently. But the ownership needs to be in the hands of our kids. We're there to guide and support them, and that's it. I also think, by the way, just to finish off here quickly, I think that kids learn from our example as well. And I probably let Matthew down in that respect. I'm not a hard charging guy in the gym or anything, but he did see me working hard at my job, and he saw that I loved playing beer league and how much I loved being a goaltender. And I'm sure that influenced him to some point. And I also love reading and learning about athletes that work extremely hard. So I took advantage of that. We had a season where he would have to drive 1 hour and 15 minutes to practice. I would have to drive. He was with me. And so we would listen to ebooks on the way down to practice. We listened to David Goggins, for example, his first book, one of the toughest, hardest charging athletes out there. Caution parents of young kids. There's some really tough languages and experiences he recounts in there. We listened to biographies of guys like Kobe Bryant, legendary hard workers. But I think my key point to all this is it is in their hands. We can create an environment for them. We can share some experiences, but it's got to come from them, and just let that be okay. Those are my thoughts, guys. Hit me up with your thoughts, with your questions. parents@ingoalmag.com. I always love hearing from people, whether it's another question for a future segment or you just want to tell me your thoughts on today's topic. I'd love to hear.
Just realize something. The way I listen to the parent segment is totally different than my engagement to the gear segment or the feature interview. I'm engaged fully in all three, but it's very different. I have this just massive desire and respect for you to give me this information and learn from you in this regard, like as a parent, and not even as a goalie parent. I just as a parent, and how I can learn, like the myth of laziness. I just learned something there that I can read and translate into how I talk to kids or my own children. That's very cool. But just I was looking at this going,
thank you.
Woody and I are both looking at this differently than we do when we're talking about the gear segment or the parent or the feature interview.
I'm actually pissed.
You. Why?
Angry Woody's back
again.
Like, chip on the shoulder. He's mad again because because I needed this advice like 1.5 years ago. As you were citing these things, I'm like, shoot, I should have done that. Yeah, because I dealt with this, and
it's really easy for me to preach. It doesn't mean it was easy all the way along.
But the examples of listening to stuff in the car instead of and having other people show the way instead of being like, hey, if you're not going to work harder, we're not going to invest all this money into all this extra training if you're not going to do extra work. Like that kind of, I know that's not the right way to go, but there were times we went that way.
But, yeah,
and it would have been a lot better. Yeah, it would have been a lot better to see those examples.
I will say, just to be fair, I mean, you have to couch those discussions carefully, but I have had situations where I said, okay, this is your choice if you want to do this or not. It is a significant investment for your mother and I, and here's how much it is. If we're going to go down this road, you do have to give it your best. Are you willing to do that? And if it looked like he wasn't at any point, I didn't go and sort of break that confidence and get into an argument around it. Because I realized all along there's more going on than I knew. But I do think it's okay to have that conversation and be upfront. Like I said, you're trying to create some ownership in the whole experience.
Yeah, having that conversation. And then when you see what you don't think your expectations of what hard work, like that's where it becomes hard as a parent.
It is really tough.
And our expectations aren't always realistic to a young athlete's life. That's the part that I learned a bunch, Hutch, and I wish I'm kind of wish I could hit rewind on the last year and a half and a couple of discussions I had with my own daughter. I didn't probably do the right way. Or as much as I enjoyed our Taylor Swift drives and singing along to music, there could have been some benefit to mixing in a little third party.
You're never going to forget those experiences singing T Swift with your daughter. That's all good.
Well, I hope she forgets them because I think they've left a scar.
Well, I hope she filmed them.
I'd love to go
and
back
if so,
to
parents at InGoalMag.com, Livy.
I would love to hit the rewind button on all of that. Hutch, that's really good. And my expectations, I know, were not realistic for the moment for her. And
do you know something? Woody brought up the point about, knowing a teenager's life, and my teacher hat went on there. I don't think I even realized it until I started teaching. And then I thought to myself, wow, here I am specializing in one subject, teaching 2 or 3 classes, but my attention is drilled in on one thing that I already know pretty well. Our poor kids have to take 5-6 classes all at the same time, learning those 5 or 6 different subjects in amongst all of their having a social life and their sport. They have it much harder than we do. And I think we just need to acknowledge that.
And the expectations of being an athlete. Oh, you're an athlete, so like you need to make different decisions than some of your friends, but they're still in my case, 17 years old. Like you still have to let them also be that too. And that doesn't, just because I'm surrounded by professional athletes doesn't mean the 17-year-olds can act that way or behave that way on a consistent basis, or they'd all turn into a bunch of parent-hating robots.
So one of my favorite things about InGoal Radio, the podcast, is we're not here just to have hockey talk out and be the person that's sounding like the greatest expert or the know-it-all, saying the right thing as a broadcaster and being so authoritative. Like there's some honest conversation that happens every episode, and this is a great example of it. There's chirping around the gear segment. There's fun commentary with the feature interview, but the parent segment is just us basically bearing our soul and admitting there's some therapy here, you guys. It's with Woody and I anyway. With
me too.
With
it's
peeling back the onion and admitting some mistakes here. So it's fun.
Lots here too, buddy.
Not a lot of just you got to do it this way. Just admitting faults.
I can assure you, many of those days when I skated away and just let him do his own thing on the ice, I was biting my lip hard as I was turning in the other direction. It's not easy.
Well, Joey was the kid that was on the ice and being guided along by a father. So there's a great tie-in here with the parent segment over to the feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena. We'll get to Joey in a little bit as we talk about what the latest is with Sense Arena, NHL Sense Arena.
NHL Sense Arena has got a whole new release out, guys. One of the things I just love about NHL Sense Arena is they're always updating it. Woody, how different is NHL Sense Arena compared to when we first met them and first put the headset on?
Well, I think funny enough, like massively, but funny enough, the biggest answer we're going to get on that is going to come from Joey Daccord later in this feature interview.
Well, I think so. And that's really what I was going to say. There is a new release out. Go check out the new release. Go to NHL Sense Arena's website, sensearena.com. If you want to try it, on the website, you can still use the code IGM50 and save a little bit of extra money. But I don't need to tell you all about the new release just yet, because you're going to hear so much awesome stuff about NHL Sense Arena from Joey Daccord in the feature interview this week. Listen to how he uses it. Hang in there right until the end. Woody and I and Darren all even learned a little bit more about Joey's use of Sense Arena than we knew. We've told you before that he's used it, but he gets into some specifics and how important it is to him in this interview. And I think you're going to want to give it a go too.
The NHL Sense Arena feature interview. Joey Daccord talking a whole lot of stuff in here, including blockers. It's Kevin Woodley in conversation on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome back to the InGoal Radio podcast, Joey Daccord of the Seattle Kraken, who we've had a chance to catch up with from time to time over the past couple of years. Feel blessed to sort of have you guys just down the I-5, especially for the Winter Classic, which we'll talk about. Just first off, welcome back to a season. How excited are you to be coming back and getting this year going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always fun to be a repeat guest, so we'll take that. Yeah, just excited to be back and get going. I think there's always this buzz around training camp, especially when you've had a long off season, to just get back going. And for myself personally, I'm very excited. I know the whole group's really excited to get back at it as well.
What was different this summer from past summers in terms of where you are career path wise, comfort level, and how you approached it?
I think for this summer, it was nice to have a little bit of consistency. To be able to, kind of know I'm going back to Seattle as opposed to the last few years. It was Charlotte, then it was Coachella, then it was Seattle. It was lots of moving pieces and lots of unknown. So to be able to have that consistency and just knowing where I'm going to be is made it a lot more, easy to be focused on, as well as obviously didn't want to have a long off season, but there were some advantages to it that were really big for me. And I feel like I was able to accomplish a lot of the things I wanted to with my off season. And like I said, excited and ready to go.
What have you learned about how you manage your off season from year to year? And like you said, maybe this year different because you knew exactly where you're going back to, but just in terms of yourself, your body, like, do you take more time off than you used to? Do you feel like you need to sort of get a break to rediscover the passion? How has that evolved?
I think you learn a lot each summer, and you kind of take like your own personal data, I guess you could say, from the summer each year. And every summer is different based on how much time you have, how you're feeling, where you feel like your game is at, how healthy you are, etc. So each summer is a little bit different and unique in that way. And I think through all the summers that I've had, prior, and then kind of when I look at my goals for the off season, that's how I shape up and plan my summer. For this summer, I lifted a little bit less, and I focused a lot on, I was on the bike a lot. That's something that I kind of learned about Bobrovsky, actually, was that he does a ton of bike riding and like heart rate training. So I did a ton of that this summer, and it was really cool and something that I'm definitely trying to add into my game.
The sort of focus of that, like what benefit are you looking for to that, and how does that?
Yeah,
you mentioned weights earlier. Like how would that be different?
Yeah, so like in a normal summer in the past for me, like I would train like really hard in the gym, like a lot of lifting, a lot of like all explosive work, 4 days a week, sometimes 5, and there is a place for that, and that's definitely essential, right? Like hockey and goalie is a very explosive, powerful based position. However, as goalies, we're on the ice for 60 minutes. Some nights you're getting peppered with, 35, 40 shots, and it ends up being a bit of an aerobic grind. And I think for myself personally, I had kind of lost that side of it. I wouldn't say maybe lost it, but I didn't know that I needed to train it as much as I did. And I spent a ton of time on that this summer. Bought my own watt bike, which is basically just a high level spin bike, and put together a protocol, and I was riding the bike like 5-6 days a week this summer, and I feel great. So we'll see how it goes. First time going into a season training like this, and I'm excited to see the results of the effort from the offseason.
We've heard that before. Actually, ironically, it was one of the things we got into with Ian Clark, who used to work with Sergei Bobrovsky, and I know also with Luongo, who used to ride a ton of bike in the summer. Do you have to be cognizant to sort of unwind some of that bike work with the hips, right? Like, I mean, essentially you can shorten some of those hip flexor muscles if you bike too much. You have to be conscious of making sure you sort of unwind that and keep those extended after those workouts.
Definitely, yeah. That's a huge part of my my summer training is the hip work. I myself have really gotten into PRI, which is the Postural Restoration Institute.
Okay,
that's something that I've been doing now the last 2 summers, and knock on wood, been feeling pretty good. So that's something that is that kind of does offset the biking, and just for me gets my body moving exactly the way that I want it to and need it to. So that's something that is super important for me.
I always worry about asking somebody to give too much away, but so with that caveat, how much when I hear that, I'm like, ooh, something different, something new, right? Like, what can you tell us about Postural Restoration Institute? Did I even get that right?
Yeah, it's the Postural Restoration Institute.
Is that something that like back home is based or here? Or?
Yeah, strength coach I had a few years ago knew a little bit about it and kind of shed some light on what it was, and I had never heard of it before. And he set me up with a physical therapist back home in the Boston area, and I started seeing him. And I remember, so this was not this past summer, so 2 summers ago, and I did it for the first 6 weeks of summer. We had a really short off season that year because we went to
Game 7.
Game 7 in the Calder Cup finals. Yep. And so we had a really short summer. So I took 6 weeks off the ice that summer, and I did it for those 6 weeks, just twice a week. And I got back on the ice and I was like, oh my God, like my whole body felt lighter. My hips were moving like I'd never, ever felt ever. And I was like, okay, this is something that I have to, keep as a constant part of my game. So now I found someone out here that does it as well. And that's just 365 days a year.
It's part of your daily.
It's part of my daily. I do it before and after every skate.
Is it like a type of stretching?
It's actually not stretching.
Okay.
It's exercises and like manual techniques.
So when you say, and that's what I was going to ask, you say you found someone, that means you need someone to sort of manually manipulate some of these things?
There is a manual component to it.
Okay.
But it's mostly exercise based.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about it is I used to like foam roll and stretch into oblivion and not get any benefit from it.
And now you're realizing that
I would stretch my hip flexors every single day, and every single day my hip flexors felt tight. My hips felt tight. And now I don't really stretch my hip flexors, and I have like very little restriction through my hips.
Wow.
So it's
sounds like for me, this is 2 years. It sounds like a game changer.
2 years. Yeah. I couldn't bang on this drum any harder.
Okay.
What's fascinating about it is it's kind of counterintuitive to everything you've ever been taught. So like this is a rabbit hole that
you're going down?
I don't really want to go down it. Because we'll be here for a while.
Okay.
And yeah, it's fascinating stuff. But like, for example, the primary focus of my training through that initially, through the first 6 months to a year was all rib cage based. So it was all like, basically my rib cage was so tight that my hips couldn't move properly. So it was all like rib cage work.
Really? And you felt the rib cage work in your hip?
Correct.
Wow.
So like right now, like if I were to go see one of my guys, the first thing we do is like, my hips are a little bit tight. First thing we do is like a rib cage manipulation, and it's a lot of breath work as well. And then you stand up, I'll get off the table, and I have like no restriction through my hips. It's unbelievable. It's like I couldn't bang on the drum any harder. It's unbelievable.
Well, we've had some experiences in the past couple of years where we've met osteopaths, different, all of a sudden we're doing different exercises to unlock the hips, and we're just like, why has nobody shown us this before?
Yeah.
It sounds like you got another one.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is you have to find what works for you. I've shown exercises to guys, and they're like, I don't really, and there's specific exercises for me that were like crazy game changers, right? And I think basically like the biggest thing for me is I've just created so much space through my hips. Like when I was younger, I used to just like, let's say you're just walking, like especially my right side, my right hip would feel like just like I would feel like that pinch and just like a lot of pressure through my right hip. And like hardly ever get that anymore. So it's fascinating stuff.
Hips are so big too, right? Like, I mean, I don't know that we can, speaking of
it's
banging
it's a full body approach, right? So like, that's the thing is it's not when you go to a prototypical like physical therapy or something and you tell them, hey, I got a tight hip flexor, like they're probably going to massage your hip flexor or do like a hip flexor strengthening exercise or tell you to do a band walk or a glute bridge. This is like a total full body approach. It's fascinating. It gets even as in depth as like your teeth and your feet and your brain, like your head.
It's all connected, right?
Yeah. So like you reposition bones in your head. Like it's,
sacrocranial type work.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's
you're pretty like that stuff is.
Yeah.
It's somebody who's had multiple concussion issues and had proper sort of sacrocranial work that just like literally turned on lights that have been off for a decade.
Yeah.
I believe you.
It's fascinating stuff. And, I encourage any goalies that have hip issues to look into it. There's a lot of good, like even just Instagram accounts, that, show you kind of how to do the exercises on your own and, can be a game changer for your hips, for the right person.
Right.
Everyone has different things that work for them, whether it's deep tissue massage or, FRC or whatever it may be. This worked for me. And, if it can help goalies feel better and especially avoid hip surgery, I just think it can be a huge game changer. So that's definitely one thing that my dad's been trying to focus on is making sure kids are getting the right education about how to take care of themselves so they can stay healthy.
And as you mentioned, I love that you stress like, hey, it's really worked for you, but it's not like doesn't necessarily
it's not for everyone.
It's tools in the toolbox, right? That's 100%. What we're all about. Find new ideas, share it with people, see if it can help them.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of tools in the toolbox, how has your toolbox evolved since the last time we caught up? Let's say over the past couple of years. We just talked about physically. What about mentally, tactically, technically? You're one of those guys that's no stone unturned, always looking for the evolution. What are some of the keys?
Always trying to find the 1%, right? I think that's like a big thing, especially now once you get to this level. Like everybody's so good, all the shooters are so good, all the goalies are so good. Trying to find that 1% that can separate yourself.
Hey, 1% is the difference between a 900 and a 910.
Yeah, there you go. Right. For me, I don't think anything's necessarily changed too much. I think one of the biggest things for me has just been gaining more experience, more confidence at the top level, getting more games played under my belt, basically trusting my training and all the experience that I've gained. And then just refining, right? Just little tweaks here and there, specific plays, specific situations.
So more like tactically in the way you read the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't say there's been any drastic changes, but just little things here and there that I've tried to work on, especially this summer. I'm a very like mechanics technique based, obviously with my dad, I've been doing technique lessons since I was 5 years old. And that's for me, that's what I fall back on. That's where I gain all my confidence from, is knowing that day in, day out, my mechanics are exactly where I want them to be.
That's the foundation.
Exactly. And that was like the biggest thing this summer was just, hey, let's go back to the basics. Let's be super, super, super dialed in on the mechanics and the foundation and the technique. And that was a giant part of my training this summer.
One thing I wanted to ask you, I think there was a couple of years we mentioned going to the Calder Cup final in the American League. I think a lot of us from the outside sort of had you penciled here. There's a late signing, then you up down there. How tough was that in the moment? And do you feel long run you were better for that year, especially with the playoff experience? That's
a great question. I felt a lot of different emotions through that time. It was challenging, and at the same time, you're right. Like it was probably the best thing for me.
And it's not like, and I'm not putting.
Yeah,
I think everybody from the outside, we all sort of just saw that was going to be the step.
Yeah, there was. It's a business, and you hope that it's going to go in your favor every single time, but it doesn't always. And I think in that situation, there was kind of a lot of unknown. I still hadn't played a ton of games at the pro level. Obviously, like Chris got like the worst bounce of all time, getting hurt at Worlds. And he's projected to come back second half of the year. And my initial thought was, hey, hopefully that opens up the door for me to finally get my shot to get some consistent games at the NHL level. And then obviously they signed Jonesy, who's just the best guy ever and was great to have, and actually was, a really good mentor for me. And I learned a lot from him from the times I got called up and the times I got to spend with him in camp. And because he's been around for such a long time and, played in games of the highest importance. So the experience that I gained in that year from then, all that experience, as well as ended up playing like 70 games that year, 26 AHL playoff games. I think all of that contributed to, a lot of things that I needed before making the jump full time. So I think,
you mean reps and more time?
Yeah, just experience, reps, playing the games, the playoff games, that playoff run, I think, prepped me for what happened this past year, where like I played 26 games straight. And then this past year, Gruby unfortunately got knocked up a little bit and missed 2 months, and I played 23 out of 25 games or whatever it was, something like that.
It's a different animal, isn't it?
Yeah, and all I was thinking the whole time was, hey, I did this last year. You know what I mean? I can keep going. I can keep playing. And I think I drew on that experience. I think it helped me a lot.
Mentally, anything you've changed in terms of your approach to the game through that experience or through last year, the way you approach confidence, for example? You talked about confidence from technique, like the way we talk about manufacturing our own confidence. Is there anything you've learned over the past 2-3 years that helps you, when you get in there, feel you're most confident?
Honestly, I think a lot of it is experience and saying, hey, I've done this before, right? Like I've gone through this experience. Hey, you give up one early. It's like, I know how to battle through this. I know how to get through this. I know how to still help the team find a way to win. Any experience that you're going through, I think I can say, hey, I've already experienced this. Like it's very rare that a situation comes up, you're like, hey, I haven't gone through this already. So that definitely helps. I think for me, like I'm a very energetic goalie and like person. And I think for me, I'm just trying to like calm myself down as much as possible throughout my game. Just telling myself, hey, be calm, stick to the process, continue to, do the right things, and then good things will happen. And for me, I find that when I'm playing kind of in that space, in that realm, that's when I'm my best.
If you had to, you talk about that energy that you bring to the game, is that like reining that in and not getting caught up in it, or do you have to let yourself get?
Yeah, I think it's finding the right balance, right? Like if I don't have any jam, if I don't have any energy, then I'm also not playing my best. So it's finding the balance of, hey, like bring the jam, bring the focus, bring the energy, but in a controlled way. That's my sweet spot.
Is that a game-to-game thing? Like, do you, like, say if you're in your warm-up, like, or getting ready before you even hit the ice for warm-up, do you feel those energy levels and know, like, we know some guys that'll, like, they'll get into a game and they'll feel like they're low energy and they've got a breathing technique that gets the heart rate up, or vice versa. They feel too jacked. They've got a breathing technique that brings it down. Like, are you cognizant of it, or is it just like, hey, I feel good right now?
I think personally, I just try to be as consistent as I can with everything, with my preparation.
So the routines are the same.
Yeah, and then through that, you end up being pretty much in the same place each game. There's some games where you're like, hey, I really don't have any jam tonight. And you can kind of sense that and then manufacture it a little bit.
Grab a smelling salt? Or?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I really like to think about just being like pushing hard, being crisp. Like I think that really, like if I don't have a lot of juice, I'll try to like talk more, right? Like I'm engage myself mentally, like yelling at the D, hey, you got a guy on you. Hey, D to D, whatever. Like I try to talk more to engage myself mentally, and that'll kind of help with that a little bit. And then just, even like if our team has the puck and we're just in a controlled breakout or something and make a couple passes, just following the puck with like some hard T pushes, that just gives me a little like, all right, that little kick in the ass, get some jam going. So I like that. I find that's a way to kind of get going a little bit. And then if I have a lot of energy, just nice, easy, calm breaths, keep it simple. Maybe like same thing, follow the puck a little bit, but just nice and smooth, something like that.
I love it. Now, speaking of situations and, you talk about experience and being ready and energy levels, there was no way to prepare for the Winter Classic. Never been there before. I was there covering it, and the atmosphere was fantastic. A huge crowd, like all the hype that comes with it. How did you manage that? Like, again, that's a brand new situation for you. It is for pretty much anyone that hasn't played in one. How'd you get through? Like, what different things? Walk me through that day from a preparation, Joey Daccord being on his game standpoint.
Well, that day is just like, I remember telling myself the night before and the morning of, like, you're just going to throw your routines out the window because
so unique.
There's just nothing you can do, right? Like, the time from pregame warm-up to puck drop was like 39 minutes. So you're just sitting around the locker room, you're freezing cold. You're like, all right, well, just throwing it out the window, you know, like even down to, like, we took a bus there from the hotel, but we got there like super early. Like
game day fits. I saw those. Yeah.
Game day fit. We come off the bus and then like you get in and it's like, all right, now you got to do a photo shoot before the game. Like, everything is just so unique.
So preparing yourself and
preparing myself that the preparation was going to be wild.
Understanding, yeah.
And just saying, hey, I'm going to go out there and just try my best. And
rather than going in saying, oh man, I'm not going to get stressing the fact you didn't get your routine.
Exactly.
Okay. I like
so
that.
I thought that was kind of an initial thing. And then just even getting to play that game was like incredible. And just grateful for the experience and just to have all my family and friends there. And then for it to go as well as it did was a dream come true. It's just one of those games, like I said it to you before, but just puck's not going in and you're just riding the wave until it crashes. And, those are the fun ones to play for sure.
Well, I mean, looking back on it now, because I'm guessing it was a bit of a blur as it's happening. What stands out? Like, what's the lasting memory?
Well,
probably a few.
There's a lot of lasting memories. The first one is that I didn't save one single shot in the entire warm-up. So sometimes that's the way it goes. I remember I was getting rinsed in warmies and I was like, this, we're going to have to find it here pretty quick. Because like, you know what's funny is like, okay, I'm all jacked up too, right? I'm excited. I got nerves. And then
place was electric.
Well, yeah. And you walk out of the dugout.
The flames.
Yeah. And it's like, well, you're coming out of a dugout. It's just such a unique experience. And then like right as we're walking on the ice for warm-ups, they tell us, oh, like we're taking warm-ups in beanies. And I was like, so I don't have my helmet? They're like, no, we'll bring it around for you. So then you got to go out in a beanie. I've never skated in an NHL warm-up with no bucket before. I'm like, okay, I'm trying not to fall. Then I like had to go grab my helmet, put it on. The sweatband fell out. Like just like the whole thing. And again, I just leaned back on like, you knew this was going to be a unique day and just have fun with it. Enjoy it. Whatever happens is going to happen. Just go out there and have fun. And then the game started. I made a couple saves and then it was just kind of like that snowball effect, right? Make a few saves, start feeling good. And then next thing you know, it's halfway through the game. You look up, you're up, 1 or 2-0 and you're playing pretty well. You're like, oh, this is going pretty well. Let's keep riding the wave. Like, just keep it going. Just keep it going. And then, yeah, next thing you know, the game was over and we won and it was incredible.
Okay, so I want to get to like the the TNT broadcast, the family being there, but real quick for young goalies like they get rinsed in warmies, as you said. Like, there's a lesson here. How do you go from that?
I used to take it like really seriously,
right?
And I still do. Like for me, warm-ups is all about finding my focus, finding my energy, and getting a good sweat. Like I want to just feel my body really warm. You have games where you stop every puck in warm-ups, and then you can't get in the game, can't stop anything, and vice versa. I think for me, I'm just like, and bring the energy, bring the focus. That's what I'm telling myself all warm-ups basically. And just get ready to play. Like if you get scored on the whole warm-up, like it's still 0-0. You know what I mean? Like you're still try to feel the puck as much as you can, but it's still 0-0. Go out there, bring energy, bring focus. And just as soon as the puck drops, hey, it's like, I used to, actually, like, I remember I told my dad one time, I was like, I feel like I have way better warm-ups when I'm not starting. Like when I'm backing up, like this is when I was in like junior or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to change shirts after warm-ups when I was backing up before the game started because, you don't want to put you don't want to be sweating in a sweaty shirt. So I'd change undershirts. So my dad was like, maybe just try like going out there and try warming up like you're not starting and change shirts after. So then now I like basically try to warm up like I'm not playing. Just go out there, have fun. Hey, you're not playing anyways. And then come in, change shirts, reset. It's a whole new ball game and then go out and play the game.
Okay. So speaking of dad, your family being there, it's hard for me to, as a writer, I had to try and quantify it in the immediate aftermath, talking to you and sending him a few messages. But looking back on that, to have a moment like that on a stage that big in a city that is, like welcoming hockey and it's growing here and it's on the main stage like that, and then to have your family sitting right there too, like is that part of the lasting memory, those conversations afterwards with them?
100%. Yeah.
Your brother, your mom, your dad.
Yeah. I had my parents, my brother, my 3 best friends from home. It was just a really like special moment. I remember so many times looking up at them during the game and just looking around and just taking it all in.
So you allowed yourself to do that?
100%. Yeah. I try to do that every game.
That's important? Okay.
Every game at one time or another, I try to, whether it's during a TV timeout or pucks at the other end, I'll just look up and look around because it's like, I'm playing in the NHL. Like, this is the best thing ever. It's all I've ever wanted.
Why not enjoy it?
It's all you've ever wanted. And just take it all in. Especially, like, honestly, I do it the most if the game's not going great.
Okay.
If I'm, for whatever reason, not having my best game, I find those are the moments when I say, hey, remind yourself, smile, look around, like, look where you are right now. Like 99.999% of goalies and players and hockey players would kill to be here right now. Right. So just look around. Hey, I'm here. This is incredible. Take it all in. Enjoy every moment of it. So what? You're losing. Like, you might come back. Right. Like, just keep going, just keep trying, keep working. And that's all I'm trying to think.
So we talk a lot about staying in the moment. And I find it's the easiest thing for somebody like me to say and the hardest thing when you play to actually do. But it sounds like enjoying the moment is a part of that for you.
It absolutely is. And it can be very challenging, right? It's so easily said.
Right.
But it can be challenging. And like I just said, especially when it's not going well, right? Like you're in the moment, you're like, oh, just get me out of here, But then it's like, hey,
you dwell on the last one, the next one's coming.
Yeah, for sure. And I just try to say, hey, I feel like so lucky and like blessed to be here right now that like I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain. I'm just like, I personally feel like I've always kind of been an underdog. Always, never really. I got drafted in my second draft here in the 7th round. I went to Arizona State where they had never played a game of Division I hockey, and I didn't have any other scholarship offers. Like, I forged my own path and made it, full time my first year as a 27-year-old. So I was a pretty old rookie, and I just feel grateful to be here and get to play every day. So it's pretty special, and I just try to take in every moment of it.
Okay, I love it. I got 2 more. One is something I bugged you about before, but now it's official. Mm-hmm. You're officially a Sense Arena ambassador. So I had to ask you just for and they're sponsoring this segment, so this is perfect.
Oh, great.
How do you use it on whether it's a day-to-day basis or in your off season this summer? I think, we've talked in the past when it first came out and your dad was involved, you didn't use it, but you've become somebody that believes in it. And I think one of the things that I think has been so special about you being willing to talk about it, Devin Levi too, is there are a lot of young kids that like it. And then when they get to the rink, somebody says something to them and they're hesitant. To have that pro validation that, hey, like, this is a legit tool.
Yeah, a lot of guys use it now.
Can razz me for breaking it out before a game or whatever.
Yeah, well,
it validates it.
Yeah,
for these kids.
I think it'd be pretty funny if you got, bullied or made fun of for it. And then that night you turn on the NHL game and they're showing clips of me or Levi or Devin Cooley or guys using it before the game. Then it's like, oh, maybe that is kind of cool. First off, like, the team over there is top notch. They do a great job, and they work really hard to put out a good product. I remember when my dad first showed it to me, it was in my parents' living room, and this was a long, long time ago. And I was like, oh, it's a fun little video game for people that want to try goalie or whatever. I didn't think I was going to use it. And then I started using it maybe 2.5 seasons ago, and I just felt really good after I used it. And I used it a couple times before practice, and I was like, I'm dialed in. Like, I'm seeing the puck like so well. Started using it before games, and I felt like it was like a warm up for my warm up. Sometimes, especially like if we play afternoon games or games where we don't get a morning skate, you get out there, it's like, you're still kind of trying to see the puck and get your tracking dialed in. But if I use my Sense Arena before, it's like I jump into warm-ups just already at full throttle. And I think, truthfully, the biggest spot that it's helped my game is working through traffic and projecting, because a lot of the drills I do, I'll do them once with no screen, and then I add in a screen. And like, I've made saves the last couple seasons through traffic that I see for a millisecond, and I catch it. And then I'm looking around like, did anyone realize how good of a save that was? Like, because they had no idea. I never saw it, right? Yeah. And I'm like, that was a Sense Arena save. That's a save that I made from using Sense Arena. Wow. That's the biggest spot that I feel like I've advanced from with that.
That says a lot. Okay, and the other one, because it got a lot of attention on social media, but he showed up in a Bauer blocker this summer. I didn't get a chance because thanks to, I'm not going to name the agent's name at the border, a little slow getting down here today, but didn't get a chance. Is he still on? And I'm not looking to dig in it, but the process of trying new things in the summer from an equipment standpoint at the highest level.
Well, yeah, at the highest level, you get access to
everything,
pretty much whatever you want, which is a blessing and a curse, I think, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what I have and what I wear has worked for a long time. Like I'm still in a eFlex 4 set of pads. Like
you're true.
I remember I used to make fun of Corey Schneider because it was like a V9 pad and he was still wearing like a V2, him and Jonathan Quick. And they were like, dude, we got to get you a new set. And he was like, I'm not changing. You know, I was like, I'm not doing it.
Dude, I know reps. I won't name the company's names, but Schneid's in Vancouver, especially there was that one partial lockout year. Mm-hmm. And so they'd be in and out of rooms at UBC because the Canucks don't have a practice facility. And they'd get booted. And all of a sudden, Corey would be like coming out with like 4 different sets of pads because every company wanted him head to toe in their stuff.
Yep.
I know reps.
And he wouldn't do it because he always went Vaughn pads and he had like the Reebok until it was CCM, he was Reebok gloves, then he was CCM gloves.
Yeah, and they literally, because Vaughn, his pads were so pillowy soft that some of the companies that had like a solid one-piece sort of shin to boot, like the rep would get it and like do everything in their power to break that actual like
before he put it on,
before they gave it to Corey because the manufacturer wouldn't do it for them, but they were like physically trying to break the pad for him. So I know, man, I know what it's.
Yeah, that's So on one hand, it's like, okay, I've done well. I'm happy with how my gear feels, but it's like, you're also doing yourself a disservice if you don't see if there's something that can make you 1% better.
No stone unturned. Right?
And yeah, for me, like I've loved my True Gear. I still love my True Gear. I just felt like, you know, that I could with the blocker just make me maybe 1% better. There really isn't that much of a difference.
Does it feel? Is it the way that rebound's coming off?
It's just the pure pop that it has. It's nuts. Like I honestly, the reason I asked to try one was because I played against Ottinger last year and he had like 3 or 4 blocker saves that went out of the rink by like 20 feet over the glass. And I was like, that's sick. I was like, that's sick. You know, like,
how's he doing this?
Yeah. And I tried it and, I liked it. So it's gonna go in the bag to start. We'll see how it goes. So,
I love it. I mean, like, I don't think people get a glimpse of that, right? Like, and understand that there are innovations, and that, like you said, like we made the joke before, like 1% can be the different. Like that's all you're looking for at this. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel at this stage, but you find things, whether it's Sense Arena or a blocker with more pop on it, that you're going to try.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I love that approach. I love that you made time for us to share it with our audience. Joey, thanks so much, man, and have a great season.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm giddy. I was giddy the first time I heard it and giddy now, like listening to that. There's just so much there. Can I just, because we've all had that thought when we played, when we've made a save and realized that was a really good save. And when Joey said nobody realizes how good of a save that was, we've all had that thought, but I've never been able to articulate it or wanted to articulate it because of fear that I'd be cocky or arrogant, or maybe it wasn't that good of a save and I'd be shunned for it. But that was a cool moment.
I love that he knows too that, you know, like hey, that was a really good save and nobody's going to realize it because I barely saw it, but also it's an NHL Sense Arena save. Like he actually makes saves in games and it's like, that's because of the work I do with the product. So I thought that was pretty cool. The blocker stuff. What about the other way, guys? Like we all make saves that everybody else is banging their stick and they're losing their mind. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while you mix in one that nobody expects you to make and they're losing their minds and you're like, well, he had the whole net and he threw it back into me, or
exactly.
We know it was lucky, right? Yeah. Like we got to take them both, right, Darren? They may not recognize the truly great ones, but we'll let them.
Got to be good to be lucky.
Yeah, we'll let them applaud the lucky ones too. It's okay.
Got to be good to be lucky. Hey, I had my parent hat on though, listening to that piece as well, because I've said it here before. I love to point out after games something that I noticed that kids have done that maybe other people in the rink didn't notice. It's my goalie coach thing as well, right? You talk to one of the goalies, say, I love when you beat that pass across the ice on the power play there and you stayed on your feet. Like just little subtleties and maybe a save like this that Joey's talking about that other people in the rink wouldn't have noticed. That's something you can do as a parent, is have that conversation with your kid. Like, what do you think went really well today that other people might not have noticed?
Getting even deeper.
Well, and I guarantee you he's had those conversations with his dad, Brian Daccord, right? Who's, when we talk about writing the book on goalie parenting, Brian literally has. He has a book on goalie parenting. And so it's been cool to sort of see that relationship and that work and how to be a goalie parent. There it is. Hutch holding it up for those of us that, can't see him.
If you watch this on video, as nobody does, you'll be able to see the book.
And it's...
you know why people don't watch it on video?
Because we don't publish it on video. Then we'd have to do our hair in the mornings.
So I was thinking somebody's going to be looking for it on video, like, and I want to make sure that they don't go down a search.
I had a momentary panic. Am I on video right now?
Well, you are. We're just not using it. We should one day.
I think we should. I'm the guy that's been banging that drum the longest.
I'm the guy who has to do all the work.
I know. I wanted
I'm saying we can do it.
I wanted to make that clarification. I'm not doing any work. I just think it'd be cool to every now and then. Well, I guess.
Yeah, but you're the one who makes it look pretty if your face is on here, so it's all good. That's your contribution.
I was just going to say, I don't have to do any of the production work, but do you know how much work it would be to make this actually presentable?
Oh, I just put a filter on to blur you out there, buddy. Yeah. Or can we put the IG filters on, get big googly eyes or something?
Oh, that would be good. Some kind of filter. Let's turn the clock back. You got playlists. Before that, there was mixtapes. Do you guys remember making mixtapes?
Oh yeah.
Like that was fun to do that, especially if you had to record off the radio and catch it before the DJ came in. Doing that.
I'm not that old.
And the dual
parents
cassette.
Explain to your children what tapes were. They're not for wrapping Christmas presents.
There were the things
hey, parents, explain to your children what the radio is.
Yes. Cassettes were the thing that when I didn't have an ice scraper when the frost came in, I would use to scrape my windows. Yeah.
The case.
Yeah.
Please, not the cassette.
Yeah. Well, in a pinch.
Welcome to Brandon.
But now,
can I just say, as good as Joey Daccord was in the feature interview, make sure you check out InGoalMag.com, because he also did pro reads for us while we were down in Seattle for the day, and some fantastic insights on some great saves.
And those are so awesome. But the cassette mixtape, I wanted to tie into mixed sets with Joey Daccord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I like those. I like the mix. The mix set is so different now that it's unique and it's becoming fun again.
How many mix sets are left? Are there? Like, is Joey going to have, like, how many mix sets other than Joey this year are there going to be?
I don't know of any. You would be far more tuned into that than me.
And I'm struggling. Like, obviously, wow, I'm going to have to give this a think.
Gibson used to use them. Have a mix set.
I mean, everybody's got mixed sets if you go like, pants and skates. No, but he used to have mixed
some gloves.
Well, Miller did. And we talked about this with Joey, right? Like all the guys like Ryan Miller and Corey Schneider, and there's not many
John
left.
Gibson would be the last one that I can kind of remember using a different glove.
I'm trying to remember what he had. Interesting.
But I like the mix set.
Yeah, well, you like the mixtape, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Need a couple of ballads in there, so you shake it up by putting the mix set, but the blocker in. And
you love because they're doing it for a very intentional reason.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Right, like you can just like this interview, he can explain exactly why he did that with his blocker, and so if somebody makes that switch, if they go against just the ease of accepting a sponsorship deal, then they're making a real statement about that gear, and it tells you something.
Well,
and that's just what makes the game fun.
Here's the other part. There are a lot of mixed sets out there. Maybe not in terms of brands you see, But in terms of sets, gloves, blockers that are old lines, different models, and sometimes even, I think of James Reimer with, now of course Bauer has its 580 break even available to the public, but James Reimer trying Roberto Luongo's 580 CCM and ultimately having Bauer build him a glove. There is a lot of subtle things that manufacturers do specifically for NHL goalies to make the switch more comfortable or to make sure that their gear fits and feels more like something that maybe another manufacturer had in the past that goalie loved. So, I mean, there's a lot of that in the National Hockey League. You'd be naive to think there wasn't. But yeah, in terms of actual mixed sets, I think that's a bit of a, Joey might be a 101 this year.
By manufacturer.
Correct.
I'm talking mixed sets by manufacturer. So
yeah, exactly. Let's not let the conspiracy theories run wild. There's nobody wearing Vaughn pads that are skinned to look like CCM pads or anything like that. We've certainly read those stories before a long time ago, but
one of them might have led,
they were ever true.
One of them might have led to a lawsuit that we were forced to comply with notes from. So we'll leave that one alone.
Well, now you've got me curious.
There's a tease.
Oh, let me get you into the world of subpoenas, Darren.
Can we talk about that one day? Like, are you bound by any?
I don't think so, but let me double check before we put ourselves in some type of double jeopardy.
Okay, because if I think about it from your point of view, you guys are on the right side of it. You're just talking about manufacturing and goaltending, and it's not there would be nothing malicious here. It would just be you would be contacted because you've noticed something.
In our case, it was purely reporting what we'd been told by others.
It was basically we interviewed somebody who was a part of what eventually became a lawsuit, and our interview became part of the record, and that interview was required and requested for part of the lawsuit under threat of subpoena.
Is that the only time you've ever been subpoenaed?
I'd rather not discuss this.
That might have been one of the first moments we felt like we were actually doing something semi-significant after we started InGoal. It's like, whoa, somebody actually noticed. This is big.
I don't think I've ever been subpoenaed.
No, me neither.
I've been asked to appear, like jury duty and stuff like that, but never subpoenaed. So I think, I think it's cool. I was asked for jury duty twice in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Very cool. You just send it back.
Clearly, they take that a little more seriously down there, because the only jury duty I've been summoned for up here, actually, it wasn't me. I got a note because the mail forwarding was on for my dad, who had already passed away, and they wanted him to be. I'm like, I don't think he's going to be able to help you as a juror right now.
It's great because I just reply saying Canadian. I can't. Sorry.
Is that true?
Sorry to bother you. Yeah.
That's like when I get the calls and I make the mistake because my call blocking isn't good enough, and they're like, "Hey, we're just calling to do a quick poll for Ipsos, whatever polling company is doing a poll, not political, but like market testing."
Yeah.
And I just say, "Sorry, let me interrupt you. I work in the media." "Oh, you're not eligible. Thank you very much."
Do you just hang up, Hutch?
I just don't answer. Literally, my phone has a whitelist feature on it most of the workday. If I haven't put your number into the phone, then the call's not getting through, because I was getting so many of those.
What's a whitelist?
It's just one of the options on, so only numbers that you put on your list will actually ring through.
How do you do that? That's why he doesn't take my calls.
I can't give a lesson right now.
Of all the things we talked about today, in an amazing parent segment, this is the thing I need the most.
Okay, well, I'll teach you offline. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
I need to remember how I did it. Yeah, somehow my phone number got on one of those lists, so I was getting all these robocalls, and I mean like 15, 20 a day. And it was the only way to avoid it. Just sort of changing my number.
Is Woody's name or number on there or not?
Both of you are on there.
Oh, so now we know he's just not answering. Now he knows he's just not answering on purpose.
He's just
malicious.
Us. Yeah,
it's malicious.
Darren, you're the one who tells me you're texting Woody without texting me, so I'm the one who feels like something's happened behind my back.
That was wrong of me to admit.
I'm kidding. Yes.
hey, if anybody's still listening, InGoalMag.com for the latest updates on the world of goaltending.
Thanks, guys. I'm going back to the rink and got a couple more games today. Finish off our rookie face-off on Monday. So I'll report some of the new looks and some of the new. I will say, Portillo was right in front of me. My broadcast location last night. I did play-by-play in color for the whole game because our regular Henderson AHL play-by-play guy wasn't here yet. He was at a family.
Sorry, wait. You did play-by-play and color?
Yeah, I changed my voice for the color guy. It was.
I didn't know you'd done play-by-play before. That's
I
cool.
haven't done play-by-play in like 10 years. But my broadcast location was at the far end. It was right along the goal line, and I couldn't see the corner at the far end on my side, and there was a couple of scuffles along the boards that I couldn't see, and I was looking through the mesh, and it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was a challenge. Like seeing numbers when the team is coming at you, you couldn't really see numbers. Thought this is going too deep, but I was right along the goal line. I was 40 feet from the goalie at that whatever end they were at, and right beside me. But
did you flinch on any high hard ones?
No, but I thought as I'm talking about the play at the other end, can the goalie actually hear me? Like as I'm talking, as the plays on the other end, like would it be disconcerting to them? But Portillo made a save short side. And I've always looked at it like there's not much there. I won't be able to necessarily get over. I don't want to cheat too much. But he made a save short side where if there was any room at all, it would have went in. And it reminded me like you gotta take away all the space. You can't just rely on
95% of it.
Yeah, and they're not going to hit that. And if they do, it's a good shot. And it was cool to see that up close. That kind of save. So there was some learning that I took out of the rookie face-off.
It's a lot harder than it looks on TV.
And goalies in traffic. Carl Lindbaum is 6 feet from Stockholm, Vegas Golden Knight prospect, and his ability to deal with traffic was crazy fun to watch. I don't know how he does it, but he finds pucks and makes not just saves, but controls rebounds. And that was cool because I find traffic absolutely baffling when it comes to trying to find pucks. And I that was neat. I want to talk to. Oh, and Lindbaum went for a goalie goal.
Oh, wow.
It got knocked down.
Talk about burying the lead.
I know.
Look at this, leaving it till the end of the podcast.
Went for a goalie goal at the end of the rookie faceoff game in a 2-0 win. So he shared a shutout, and it just got knocked down. I was surprised. I wasn't even thinking that he would do it. But Jesper Vikman said he's seen him try it before, so he went for it. So I almost got to call a goalie goal.
Would have been jealous. I'm jealous anyways.
It would have been giddy. I would have been giddy. Hi, Octave.
Well,
thanks,
the good news is you could have played off your color guy.
Yeah, because he's really into goaltending.
You could have calmed you down. Just let him go with it, and then you'd be the calm play-by-play guy as your color guy lost his mind. Two different voices. You're like Hank Azaria of the broadcast world.
Oh, that's good. Brockmeyer?
Imagine him doing play-by-play.
Oh, that would be so good.
Fun.
Boys, have a good week. We will chat again as main camps are underway the next time that we gather. Thank you for listening as well. Appreciate it, everybody from NHL Sense Arena, Stop It Goaltending U, the app, and of course our longtime dedicated main sponsor, The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Langley. We'll talk to you next week, and send us your comments, your observations, and your inquiries. Anything to do with goaltending, please send it our way. We'll talk to you next week.